Friends, a very good morning to all. Uh, I, on behalf of ACAE, welcome you to this today's session at ACAE at 11. Our today's topic for discussion, friends, is compliance with the company law and SEBI regulation during COVID-19. Friends, as you know, there has been a many circulars and notification under both under SEBI and companies law, wherein there has been certain exclusion relating to the timelines and relating to the submission of return reports and all. So today we have with us CA Mohit Bhutodia, who is a practicing chartered accountant. He will be taking us through that even during this COVID period, what the compliances which is required to be done, or rather which we can do it now, irrespective of there is some waivers in timelines and all. So friends, before I start the session, so as you all know that we are doing a regular session at 11 for a varied topic, and today at the evening we have at 6 p.m. This is a wrong timing. We have how to manage your smartphone smartly. So this session would be taken by Pawan Lohia. So please do join us today at the same Zoom ID at 6 p.m. And then on Tuesday, that is tomorrow, we'll be having a session with KK Chaitanya, that analysis of recent Supreme Court cases in income tax. Then we have CA Jatin Sajai on 22nd April. Friends, and then we have two sessions on bank audit on 23rd April with CA DS Premnath, who is from Hyderabad, at 11 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. So you can join it through the same Zoom ID. And then on 24th and 25th April, there will be a two session on Benami law, which will be taken by Ashwani Taneja. On 25th, has been rescheduled in the evening, and this session is being jointly conducted with CKAC. Then on Sunday, that is 26th April, will be having a session with Ajay Agarwal. He'll be speaking on public speaking skill. So these are all friends which has been program which has been scheduled for the next week. And additionally, we are also planning a session on Saturday morning with a very good speaker. So we'll let you know the complete details of the courses through WhatsApp and email messages in the due course. Friends, let us start with today's topic, for which we have CA Mohit Bhutodia. I know most of us, he's also a ACA member, so most of us know him pretty well. But yes, we have, and it's my privilege to introduce him. Mohit Bhutodia is FCA, and he is also insolvency resolution professional. He is managing partner AC Bhutodia and Company. He stood first in chartered accountancy final exam. Is a regular special invitee in committee of ICAI, member of corporate law committee for 2018, and also been co-opted in the capital market of Merchant Chamber of Commerce. He has been co-opted in the study group of ICAI on the varied topic. He has made several presentations, seminars, workshops under Companies Act, NBFCs, and he has addressed also on taxation, restructuring, banking, finance, at the various forums, including ICAI, ICSI, MCA study circles over past several years. He has handled more than 1,000 statutory audit of PSU banks, private sector corporates. He has made represented ICAI before CBI also, and he has contributed in various articles to various bulletin issued by the study circle ICAI, including ICAI, and one of the key contributors in technical guide on functioning of audit committee issued by ICAI in 2018. With this, friends, let us welcome CA Mohit Bhutodia ji to take us through today's topic, compliance with the company law and SEBI regulation during the COVID-19. So, Mohit ji, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Jitu ji. A very good morning to all of you, and many thanks to Mr. Lohia for inviting me to deliberate on the recent circulars issued by the Ministry of Company Affairs for compliances during the COVID period. So I have not made any presentation, and I think Jituji, the time allotted to me is around 45 minutes, I believe.
Yeah. For 45 minutes, you can take the session, and then we'll take questions.
Yeah. So we are doing a lot of learning. Thanks to the association, thanks to AC, that we are doing a lot of learning in this hours of crisis. So what I'll deal, since I have not made any presentation, I'll take you through all the circulars which have been issued by the Ministry of Company Affairs in the last 1 month. So basically, during this lockdown period, whatever circulars have been issued by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, we'll deal with one by one. So first, coming to General Circular number 10, dated 23rd March. So what the MCA said that in view of COVID-19 being declared as a pandemic by the World Health Organization, even in India, it has been declared as a notified disaster. And therefore, the government, by virtue of this circular, has clarified that spending for CSR activity, spending for COVID-19 would be treated as a CSR activity. It has been further clarified that such spending should be made in respect of items number 1 and 12 relating to Schedule 7, which deals with the schedule relating to CSR. And what are these activities? These are activities relating to promotion of healthcare, including prevention, healthcare, sanitation, and disaster management. Therefore, any expenditure in relating to these items would fall under CSR activity. We next come to Circular 15, again dated 10th April, issued by the MC on, these are the certain FAQs on corporate social responsibility. And as we all know, contribution to PM CARES Fund has been treated as a CSR expenditure. However, contribution to state relief funds, Chief Minister Relief Fund or State Relief Fund for COVID-19 is not eligible for CSR. Our contribution to State Disaster Management Authority to combat COVID-19 is also classified as a CSR expenditure. Now, there issue was raised as to whether what salary wages we are paying to our employees, to the casual workers, to the daily wage earners would form part of CSR activity or not. Now, the ministry has clarified that payment of salary wages to the employees or the daily wage earners or to the casual workers is a contractual obligation. Now, if such salary is paid during the lockdown period, what they have said that it shall not qualify as a what you call a CSR expenditure, because irrespective of whether any legal obligation or not, you have also a moral obligation to pay salary wages to these employees. But an exception has been provided that if you are paying any ex gratia payment, if you are making any ex gratia payment to temporary workers, casual workers, daily wage earners, over and above their normal wages, specifically for fighting COVID-19, then this shall be treated as a one-time admissible expenditure for eligible for CSR, provided there is a declaration to the effect given by the board, and this is also certified by the statutory auditors, meaning thereby that if you are paying as ex gratia to any temporary workers, casual workers, daily wage earners, normal employees are not covered. Only casual workers, temporary workers, and daily wage earners are covered, and that is also specifically over and above their normal wages, and for the purpose of fighting COVID-19 as a one-time measure. Then this will be treated again as eligible CSR activity. Now we come to another circular dated 19th March. You see, we all know that certain items like the companies hold board meetings. Companies are also allowed to hold board meetings through video conferencing or other audio visual means. Now, when it comes to approval of financial statements, when it comes to approval of board report, when it comes to by the board of directors, when it comes to holding audit committee meetings by the for approval of financial statements, when it comes to mergers, approval for mergers, demergers, acquisition or takeover, in respect of these items of business, you cannot hold board meetings through video conferencing or other audio visual means. Yes, physical board meetings have to be held, but yes, you can always provide an option to the board of directors or the audit committee members to participate through video conferencing or audio visual means, provided in the physical meeting there is a requisite quorum. Now, we all know that there is an impossibility of all the directors coming to attend board meetings even for these items of business. Therefore, the ministry has clarified that in respect of approval of financial statements, in respect of mergers, demergers, acquisitions, in respect of approval of board report, in respect of audit committee meetings for approval of financial statements, you can hold board meetings even through video conferencing or audio visual means. And this benefit is extended till 30th June 2020. So as we have seen, a number of companies such as Wipro, then Infosys, then SDFC Bank, TCS, they have declared their financial results, and all these meetings, board meetings to approve these financial results have been conducted through what you call video conferencing and audio visual means. And then there are enough guidelines as to how these meetings are to be conducted. These are already provided in the Act, so nothing new has been also provided in the circular, so I'm not dealing with them. Now, MC has come out with another circular, circular number 11. So a number of exemptions are provided in the circular. Number one, very good exemption is provided in the sense that if you have any filings which you have not been able to do, any forms which you have not been able to file, then from the period from 1st April to 30th September, you can file all these forms. No additional fees will be required. We will discuss this more detail when we discuss the company's Fresh Start Scheme 2020, because this announcement is a part of, it is a precursor to the company's Fresh Start Scheme. So we will discuss a little later when we discuss in detail the company's Fresh Start Scheme. Now, another relaxation is given. We all know that under Section 173 of Companies Act, each company is required to hold at least four board meetings in a year. And the gap between the two board meetings shall not exceed 120 days. Again, in view of this COVID situation, the government has clarified that this period of 120 can extend to another 60 days for the next 2 quarters. Therefore, the gap between two board meetings instead of 120 days now can be 180 days. So, and this benefit is extended till 30th September 2020. Now, we all know Caro was notified by the government, and I think it is not new to any of us. The Caro has been deferred by 1 year. So for FY 2020, Caro 20 is not applicable. It will be applicable from FY 21. Now, we all know listed companies are required to appoint independent directors. These independent directors are required to hold a meeting of their own without the presence of non-executive directors, without the presence of the managing whole-time directors, and without the presence of management team. This is a meeting comprising only of independent directors, and this is one meeting each is required to be held in each year, in each financial year. Now, again, in view of the COVID situation, the government has clarified that in case of financial 1920, if the independent directors have not been able to hold the meeting, there will be no contravention of Section 149 or schedule. Now, another relaxation is given in respect of deposits as well as debentures. Certain public companies are required to accept public deposits. Now, those public companies which accept public deposit, there is also a condition that in respect of deposits maturing during a financial year, within 30 days of the commencement of the financial year, you shall create a deposit repayment reserve account and transfer at least 20% of the amount of deposit maturing to the deposit repayment reserve account. Meaning, say if a company has accepted a deposits of public company 100 crores, out of this 100 crores in financial year 2021, 20 crores is maturing. Then within 30th April, out of 20 crores, 4 crores should be deposited in a deposit repayment reserve account within 30th April. Now, this period from 30th April, it has been extended to 30th June. So 2-month relaxation is given to the companies to transfer the amount to the deposit repayment reserve account. Similarly, is the position with debentures. Certain class of companies issuing specified types of debentures again have to transfer or invest in prescribed modes 15% of the amount of debentures maturing in a financial year by 30th of April. Again, the time limit has been extended from 30th April to 30th. Now, we all know private companies or public companies. Now, after the Companies Amendment Ordinance, all companies are required to obtain a certificate of commencement of business. A company under Section 10, capital A of the Companies Act 2013, you cannot exercise borrowing powers or you cannot commence business unless you do the following. What are the following? The board files a declaration to the Registrar of Companies to the effect that all the subscribers who have agreed to take the amount of subscription shares have given money to the company. And second, declaration of Registrar Office has been filed by the company with the Registrar of Companies. So the timeline for this filing of this form is 180 days from the date of incorporation, and only thereafter a private or a public company can commence business. Now this timeline of 180 days again has been extended by another 180 days, meaning within 360 days now this company can file the form. Now Section 149. Section 149 subsection 3 says that every company shall have at least one resident director. This means every company is required to have one director, at least one director who stays in India for a period of 182 days or more. Now, this residency requirement for financial year 1920 has been dispensed with. In other words, even if in financial year 1920 we do not have any director who has stayed in India for 182 days or more, we may have two directors and both of them have stayed for less than 182 days in the company in India in the financial year 1920, then there also will be no non-compliance of Section 149 subsection 3. Now we come to the company's fresh start scheme, and thereafter we will come to the last item, which is the clarification on board resolutions, holding of holding of general meetings by the companies. Now, what is the company fresh start scheme? Let me give you. We'll discuss issue-wise by giving examples. There is a company which has not filed any financial statements. It has not filed any forms relating to, say, return of allotment, annual returns for last 2 years. It has not filed any forms. Now, if the company files set of all those forms, it is required to pay not only the normal fees, it is also required to pay the additional fees. Besides this, the company and its officers are liable for fine, penalty, or prosecution, depending upon what the relevant provisions of law provide. Now, what they have said that this is a one-time measure. If you have failed to file any returns, and what are those returns? They have also prescribed what are those returns, what are those forms. There are 76 forms which have been prescribed. 10 forms relate to the Companies Act 1956. 12 forms relate to the LLP law, and 54 forms relate to the Companies Act 2013. Therefore, if you have not filed any of those forms, 76 forms which is prescribed, you are given one-time option. Now you file all those forms during the period from 1st April to 30th September. You will not be levied any additional fees. After filing the form, then there is a CFFS 2020 form. You file all these forms from 1st April to 30th September. Then within the next 6 months, you have to file a CFSS form. There is no fees for that CFSS form. What is that form CFSS? You have to simply state that whatever forms you have filed from 1st April to 30th September, you have to give a details of the forms. You have to mention the SRN number of the form, the date of filing, which relevant form you have filed. You have to file all the forms, all the details of the forms in the CFSS form from after 1st October, after 30th September, because this form has not yet come. This form will be hosted on the website only after the closure of after 30th September. Now file that form, and once you file that form, you will get a certificate from ROC, and this will provide you immunity in respect of all those forms which you have filed during the period from 1st April to 30th September. There will be no levy of additional fees, there will be no penalty, there will be no prosecution, there will be no fine. Now, a number of issues arises in relation to this scheme. This is in simple what we have said. One thing more important is that this company's Fresh Start Scheme 2020 is only in relation to filing of forms. It is not in relation to non-compliance of law. To give you an example, a company raises money by way of private placement. The requirement of law is that when you raise money by way of private placement, you cannot utilize the money raised by way of private placement unless you file form PAS 3, that is the return of allotment. Now the company has not filed the return of allotment. The company has utilized the money raised on preferential allotment before filing of the form. The company has utilized the money raised on private placement before filing of the form. So therefore, there are two violations. One violation is that utilization of money before filing return of an allotment. Another violation is that the company has not filed the return of allotment. Therefore, now the scheme says that I am not giving you any immunity from your violation, which is done under section 42, relating to the non-compliance of law, that is utilization of money before filing of the form. But yes, if you file the form PAS 3 now, that is the return of allotment, I will give you an immunity to the extent of penalty, prosecution, additional fees relating to filing of this PAS 3. Similarly, if you say holding of an annual general meetings, a company did not hold annual general meetings in a particular financial year, it has to seek condonation for delay for holding annual general meeting. Then after seeking the condonation for delay for holding annual general meeting, it can go and file MGT 7 or AOC 4, and there will be no separate additional fees, what you call penalty or prosecution as far as delay in filing of forms are concerned. Now a number of questions will arise in relation to CFSS. We'll discuss one by one all these questions. This scheme applies to which companies? This scheme applies to all companies, including Indian companies. It also applies to foreign companies having a project office in India. The next question arises, what is a defaulting company? A defaulting company means a company which has failed to file any returns or documents as required to be filed under the Act. So, does immunity extend to all forms? The immunity does not extend to all forms. As I said, the immunity extends to 76 forms. So immunity does not extend to which type of forms? They have specifically provided that there is no immunity in relation to charge forms. There is no immunity in relation to SH7, which deals with increase in authorized capital. Because we all know why no immunity is relating to charge form, because we have known that filing of charge affects other laws, IBC laws also. Therefore, there can be no exemption. There can be no immunity for filing of charge forms. Why there is no immunity for SH7 authorized capital? Because we all know the fees relating to authorized capital, for filing of authorized capital depends upon how much authorized capital you have increased. Therefore, there is no what you call immunity in relation to filing of these forms. Now, does it apply to all companies? As I said, it applies to Indian companies under section 220. It applies to foreign companies have a project offices in India, but it does not apply to certain class of companies. What are these type of companies? A company which has been struck off. A company which has been struck off by the registrar under section 248. Now, whether these companies can now file forms? Yes, there is again an option for these companies to file a form. If these companies now want to file the forms, now they need to go to the NCLT under 252, revive the company. Once the company is revived, then they can proceed with filing of the forms. Assuming the company goes to NCLT during this period of 1st April to 30th September, it files an application under 252, but it does not get an order of revival before 30th September. Therefore, whether this benefit or immunity will be extended, no, this benefit cannot be extended, because till 30th September, this company is a strike-off company. It is not an active company. Therefore, it will not get a benefit. Assuming the company able to get this approval from NCLT, and now the status is not strike-off, then what it needs to do? First, it needs to ensure that DIR3 KYC is filed. We all know companies are required to file DIR3 KYC. So that company now first needs to file DI3 KYC so that the directors are active. Second, it needs to form INC Active 22A. We all know we were required to file this form INC 22A, which we had filed without a fees, and there was a fees for delayed filing. Now, under this scheme, there will be no fees even for filing DI3 KYC. There will be no fees for filing INC 22A active form also. Once this is done, only then it can proceed with filing of the other forms. Now, this scheme does not apply to companies which have been amalgamated. So once the company is amalgamated, there is no scope for filing the forms. It also does not apply to vanishing companies. It also does not apply to companies which have suo motu filed application to ROC for striking of the name of the company. So there are certain categories of companies to which this scheme does not apply. Now, let us take an example that there is a company, it had not filed a form, a penalty was initiated, notice for penalty was given by the adjudicating authority, penalty has been levied, the company files an appeal with the regional director against the adjudication order. What happens in this stage? In this stage, what the scheme provides, that you can still well avail the form. Before the regional director, you can take the plea that, sir, I am going to avail this scheme. So you are requested to take a sympathetic view. So once you receive the order, you can very well go ahead and proceed with this filing of this form. So another situation, there may have been some prosecution initiated and you have filed an appeal against that prosecution initiated in respect of non-filing of the form. So you have to withdraw the appeal, file the form, and file evidence of withdrawal of appeal along with CFS 2020. Once this is done, after the scheme is over and before the registrar gives you immunity, the registrar will also withdraw the complaint before any court of law. Now, we'll deal with some more specific situations. There are a number of clarifications also issued by the MC in relation to scheme. We'll discuss with some of these clarifications. Now, as I said, the current scheme will be valid only from 1st April to 30th September. After 30th September, you cannot file any form. Before 30th September, you have to file the form. Now, we all know private companies were given certain exemptions under the Companies Act. There were two exemption notifications. One was issued in 2015 and one was issued in 2017. Now, one of the conditions for exemption was that there should not be default in filing of annual forms. Now the question arises whether the private companies which have availed the exemption but have not filed those forms, would it get immunity from violation of laws provided now they file the forms? The answer is no. The condition for availment of exemption, the two exemptions which were given in 2015 and 2017 to private companies, a number of exemptions were given. This was with the condition that you are not defaulter in filing of various annual forms. Now, if you have not filed annual forms at that point of time and have taken the benefit of exemption at that point of time, so there is a violation. You have incorrectly applied the circular and taken exemption. So now, even if you now file the forms, the technical violation of law which you have done at that point of time, that will not get cured. So this remains the position. Now, let us take a situation where there is a company. We all know that companies were required to employ a company secretary. All companies were having a paid up share capital of 5 crore and above were required to appoint company secretary, and this 5 crore has been recently increased to 10 crore. And at that point of time, if you do not have a company secretary, you were also not being able to file form Active 22A. So there are a number of such companies. Besides, there are other such companies also who have not filed form E form Active 22A. Now the scheme says that you are given the option even to file form 22A, E form 22, active form 22A, and without payment of any fees, including additional fees, and only after you file, your company will be from active non-compliant, it will become active compliant company, and thereafter you can proceed with filing of these forms. So this is a very good opportunity for all those companies, for all those directors also who did not file DIR 3 KYC, or who companies which did not file e-form active, to avail this opportunity. There is no fees for filing of these forms, and then they can proceed with filing of the other forms. But one thing is to be clarified, that this scheme does not give any immunity to the disqualified directors. Therefore, if the director has already been disqualified because the company failed to file annual return or balance sheet for a period of 3 financial years, then this scheme does not give any what you call benefit to the disqualified directors. They continue to remain to be disqualified directors. Therefore, how these companies, now let us take a case where there is a company, all the directors are disqualified. Now, how can this company avail this scheme? So what the FAQ provides that now one need to approach to the registrar of companies, the registrar of companies to allow one person from back end to be inducted as a director. And once a person from back end will be inducted as a director, then they can now proceed with filing of the forms. But again, before filing of the forms, they should ensure that DIR3 KYC of the director is filed, for the company is an active company, and thereafter they can proceed with filing of the forms. Now, let us take a case where there is an order of a court sanctioning a scheme of amalgamation. Now, the company, in view of lockdown, failed to file the form. Normally, we all know that the court order says that within 30 days of receipt of the court order sanctioning the amalgamation, you are required to file form INC 28. So let us assume that the court order was received on 1st of March. Now, within 30 days, that is till 30th March, the company was required to file form INC 28. Now, in view of this lockdown, the company has not been able to file form INC 28. Therefore, a question arises whether the company can get exemption under this company start scheme even for this type of form. The answer is no. Why? Perhaps because they have not specifically clarified, but our interpretation is that when a court gives an order to file within 30 days, even a scheme cannot take away that order of the law. That order of the law will remain in force. Now, if we do not file the scheme within 30 days in INC 28, then what is the remedy? Again, we have to go to NCLT and seek condonation and seek fresh time. Those users will not, those people who have failed to file the court order will not get benefit of CFS 2020. Now, what happens to companies which are in liquidation, in the process of liquidation, we all know the companies which are in the process of liquidation and not liquidated, because once the company is liquidated, you have to file only INC 28, which are in the process. There may be various forms which have not been filed. Now, even all those forms can now be filed under this CFS 2020. But again, the period is 1st April 20 to 30th September 20. Now, say, yeah. Now, say, in case of shifting of registered office, you all know, in case of shifting of registered office, within 30 days, we have to file the relevant INC form. Now, that form has not been filed. Therefore, what happens? Can we get benefit of this scheme? The answer is no, because this form, that form INC 23 has to be filed for seeking approval of regional director for shifting of registered office from one state to another. Now, in view of lockdown, we have not filed the form. Therefore, the entire process has to be redone. So, wherever you need approval from registrar, for which we have required to file forms, and there are timelines for filing of those forms, the benefit cannot be extended under this scheme for those type of forms, because these are all approval based forms. So, for approval for shifting of registered office from one state to another, as we all know, after passing board resolution, after special resolution, giving notice to the registrar of companies, the Reserve Bank of India, the chief secretary, within 30 days, we have to file form INC 23 with the registrar of companies. And if we fail to file, and it is only thereafter the registrar of the regional director, the regional director will process the form. And if we fail to file the form due to COVID, there is no option. You cannot avail the benefit of this CFS 2020, and you have to redo the entire process again. Now, a question has been raised, a question arose as to whether, say, a company did not file forms for financial year 17, 18, and 19, 3 years. Now, the question was raised whether it can file form only for 18 and 19 without filing form for 17. The answer is yes. Yes, very well. It can file only the forms, but it will get immunity only for those forms. But MCA clarifies that as a measure of good governance, companies should file all pending forms. So the issue is there may be 10, 20, 30 forms which are pending at the end of the company to be filed, which are overdue. Only in respect of those forms which you file during this period, you get immunity from additional fees, penalty, and prosecution. In respect of the forms which are still not filed, you will not get any immunity. Now, yeah, there are issues where you say, let us say we have filed number of forms before the lockdown period. Now this form has come to us for resubmission. So what do we do now? If we file those forms now, can we get the benefit? So what they have said that, look, whatever files you form during this period, you will get the benefit of immunity. But in case there have been some forms which you have filed, but it has come for resubmission, what you can do is you can raise ticket to the MCA for extending the deadline of the form. So this can very well be done. So what MCA has said that you raise a ticket that, look, I had filed form and this form is the validity period for resubmission is till 24th April or 25th April. In view of lockdown, I am unable to file the form. So please allow further time period. So therefore, MCA may extend the deadline from say 24th April. They may give another 10-15 days to filing the form. Now, we all know what annual filings we have to do now. Besides annual return and balance sheet, we have to file one DPT3 for companies which are amount which are not considered as deposits. We are also required to file MSME form. The question arises that if you have failed to file a DPT3 form, say for March 19, obviously you can get the benefit of exemption by availing the scheme. But what about MSME forms? This MSME forms is not a requirement of the Companies Act. This requirement stems from the MSME, Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Act. There is no filing fees for this form. So therefore, the scheme does not apply to this form, because today also we can jolly well go ahead and file MSME form without payment of any fees. And this goes without saying that all forms which we file during this extended period needs a digital signature, because one question was also read whether it needs to be digitally signed. Of course, this needs to be digitally signed. So this is all about the company, start scheme. If you have any question, we will take up at the end of the session. Now we come to certain clarifications relating to holding of ordinary and special resolutions. Now, we all know all companies are required to hold board meetings. They are required to hold annual general meetings. They are required to hold extraordinary general meetings. Now, for annual general meetings, we have ample time till 30th September as the law stands now. So that is not any cause of concern. But the cause of concern is holding of board meetings, holding of general meetings. Now, they have not clarified anything regarding board meetings, because what they have said that the law provides for holding board meetings even through audio visual means or through video conferencing. And as I said in the opening part of my discussion, that for items relating to approval of financial statements, board they have provided one-time relaxation till 30th June, that now you can approve these items even without calling a physical meeting. Through video conferencing and audio visual means you can approve, carry on these items of business. But what about other items of business? Say under section 179, number of business cannot be transacted without a meeting of the board. So we have to, see all the respective items and the manner which is provided in the law for execution of those items. Say under 179, now the company wants to exercise borrowing powers. Now the company wants to exercise borrowing powers. It cannot hold physical board meeting. It can do through video conferencing. There may be certain items of resolutions which do not require physical board meeting. You can do by resolution by circulation. You can even do board meeting, say, let us presume that it is a family company and all directors are at home. Let us take for the purpose of example. So you can jolly well hold the physical board meeting at the home itself. But what we need to understand, the requirement of SS relating to sending of notice of board meeting, relating to giving agendas of board meeting, all these need to be complied. That has not been dispensed away. Therefore, for board meeting, there should not be any difficulty. There should not be any difficulty. The notices can be sent by email. The agenda can be sent by email. The meetings can be held through video conferencing or other audio visual means. Like Zoom is can be a mode of holding meeting. You can record the Zoom meetings. So recordings can be done. There are a number of other compliances which are already laid down in the law. Nothing new, so we are not discussing. Now the question arises as to general meeting. Hey, we need to hold a general meeting for approval of certain items of business. Now, how can a general meeting be held? General meeting requires physical presence of the members. We all know general meeting can be held physically. Even if when there is an option of voting by electronic means, a physical general meeting is held. Why a physical general meeting is held? Because shareholders come at that meeting. They exercise their option to vote if they have not voted otherwise prior to the meeting by electronic means. And it is a one-off event in a year where all the shareholders of a company come and assemble together. They share their views, they raise queries before the management, and maybe the voting pattern of one individual, one shareholder can affect the voting pattern of another shareholder. Now, how to hold extraordinary general meetings? So what the law has again provided that as of now, you cannot hold extraordinary general meetings by video conferencing or other audio visual means. But there is a circular 14 and 17, which have clarified that for items of business, for other than ordinary business and other than items which require directors or auditors to be heard, for those items you can transact business. You can hold annual general meeting even through video conferencing or audio visual means, and detailed guidelines as to the manner of conduct, as to how you will send notice, how will you conduct postal ballot, how will you conduct voting by electronic means, all has been provided in detail in this circular. So we are not repeating all those guidelines which are there. Now we come to, but one thing is important, like what is important to each one of us, like, we have to conduct first board meeting. Now, assuming the lockdown does not open, and say for some reason or the other, we say that we even do not have the resources, we do not have that adequate documents even to conduct general meetings. The company needs to exercise borrowing power. The company needs to, it is a public company, it needs to borrow beyond the capital and reserves, including share premium. There is an urgency. There is an urgency for some items for which approval is required, but due to some reason or the other, I cannot hold the extraordinary general meeting. Then the company can, it is a situation I think nobody could have envisaged while writing the law. The law does not have any solution to such kinds of extraordinary situations. The law cannot expect us to do something which is impossible to perform. Therefore, today, if I am sitting at my home, my office is under lock and key, I do not have any access to the documents which are there in the office. I was maintaining all records physically. Then now, if I need to carry out some important item of business, what do I do? I am not able to do. Then what should I do? I can post facto, once the lockdown opens, once I do have all the means, I can call an extraordinary general meeting and seek a rectification of all acts that I have done. Therefore, say I exercise the borrowing powers. I was not able to hold a general meeting. I did not seek shareholder approval. Post the lockdown opens, once I go to my office, I have access to the documents. I will call a meeting of the shareholders. In that meeting of the shareholders, I will get a post facto approval, and that will ratify also all my acts which have been done during this period of lockdown. So this can be done. I think regulator will also take a very sympathetic view to this, because I cannot be expected to do something which I am not able to do. Now, one more important issue is that we all know that when an extraordinary general meeting is held, the register of the board meeting is held, the register of contracts need to be placed, and these register of contracts need to be signed by the director. MBP1 is to be there. Now, say we are holding the first board meeting, and we all know in the first board meeting, all the directors are to give the declaration in form MBP1. How they will give the declaration? That is not possible to give the declaration now. So what is the possibility? Because I may say that all my records, all my information relating to the companies in which I am a director, companies in which I am holding more than 2% share capital, I do not have the information right now at my home. So I am not able to give. Therefore, what happens? I can. Will it there be a violation of law? Obviously not. It will not be a violation of law because I cannot be expected to do something which I could not have done. But assuming I do have all those information available, I can very well send MBP1 by mail to the company secretary, and that company secretary, once the lockdown is over, it will take out the form, print the form, and replace the the email version with the originals, which we will again give to the company secretary. So we have to find ways and means to comply with the law, because many a times at this point of time MCA may have given a number of clarification, but depending upon company to company, all answers cannot be given. So within the four corners of law, and again assuming the impossibility of performance of an act, we have to find ways and means to comply with the provisions of the law. Last, we come to the SEBI requirement. It will take only 2-3 minutes. That SEBI has relaxed various timelines for filing the forms for financial results. So as of now, what SEBI has to, we all know that within 60 days we have to complete the audit of listed companies, and listed companies have to file their annual results till 30th May. Now they have given a one-time extension, 1 month extension. Instead of 30th May, it will be 30th June. This applies equally to banks. So we are in a relaxed position today, assuming the lockdown opens, on 3rd May, or it is a gradual opening of a lockdown. We have again ample time to conduct audit of listed companies. We are time till 30th June. Now, we all know Institute has also come out with a guideline for digital signature of audit report. So in this lockdown period, if some company is required to give results, audit the financial results, it can use the digital signature. Now, SEBI has also relaxed the timeline. I'm not discussing with each of the timelines because it is more relevant for a secretarial perspective. Like, for example, a company needs to file corporate governance report. The time was 15th April 2020. Now this time is extended by 1 month to 15th May 2020. Shareholding pattern. The company is required to file shareholding pattern within 21 days from the end of the quarter, by April 21. Now this day is again extended to 15th May 2020. Similarly, for investor complaints, the company is required to file the monthly investor complaints by 21st of April. Now again, the time is extended to 15th May 2020. This is how, for a number of issues which the listed companies are required to comply, the timelines have been extended. But one thing on RBI guideline, just I like to add, for Reserve Bank, a number of returns are to be filed within 15th of April. This is particularly for systemically important companies. They are required to file a number of returns relating to asset liability management, a quarterly return on financial parameters, a quarterly return on capital adequacy, ALM, branch info returns. They are required to file within 15 days from the end of the quarter. There is no relaxation as of now given by the Reserve Bank of India in respect of filing of all these forms. So many companies have sent mail to Reserve Bank that look, our office is locked down. We do not have the data available at home, so we are not able to file all those forms. But there is no specific relaxation given by Reserve Bank of India in respect of filing of this. So with this, given the time allotted to me, I'd like to end my presentation. I'll be happy to take questions if any. Thank you.
Friends, if you have any question, you can raise your hand so that I can unmute you and you can ask the question directly. And Mohitji, we have 2 questions in the chat box. If you can take those questions.
Yeah. So is the due date for NFRA 2? Yes, the due date of NFRA 2 has also been extended. That was extended even prior to the lockdown. Can a company file form MGT 14 if not filed within 300 days without application? Yes, this is a question I missed to take this issue. say we have not filed MGT 14. The time allowed for filing MGT 14 is 300 days. Now, after 300 days, we have to make an application to the central government for condonation of delay. There is no change in this position. So, what you have to do again, you have to go to the central government seeking condonation of delay. What NCA has said that all these forms relating to condonation will also be processed on a fast track basis. So once you get the condonation, you can go ahead with the filing of the form. So,
yeah, Mohit, please.
Yeah. So there is an issue relating to foreign companies also. So foreign companies, the law provides that even foreign companies can take benefit of this scheme and file the overdue forms. That is also clarified by MCA in a webinar. Now, the question is, I think it will interest to many of us, can CFS be filed now if earlier it could not be filed due to clerical error in filing original AOC where it was ticked that CFS was not required? This is a problem which many of us has faced, that we had filed form AOC 4. In that form, we did not tick the option whether consolidation is applicable. We went ahead. Now, after that, AOC 4 CFS could not be filed. So you have only one option now. You need to go to the registrar of companies, make an application, give an indemnity, stating this position, and state that as the registrar of companies to mark the form as defective, and then you can upload again the AOC 4 by removing the defect, and then you can go ahead with filing AOC 4 CFS. So this AOC 4 CFS, since you are filing during this period, April to September, you will get the benefit of waiver of additional fees. But yes, as far as the ROC allowing you the option or not, again, it depends from ROC to ROC. Even MCA in its webinar has clarified that again, we cannot instruct the ROC to do, but ROC, again, depending upon case to case, if it is satisfied, it can very well mark the form. So this is how you can go and apply to the ROC. And in past, ROC has been kind enough to accede to many of the requests.
Mohit, I have one question. Citing this fresh start, what will happen actually to those directors whose deal has been disabled and they have been disqualified prior to this fresh start process? You see, when the new companies which has defaulted and yet to be tracked off, or rather director getting disqualified. So now what will happen to the past cases actually? Means the deficiencies have been regularized because of this fresh start process. So what will happen to this disqualification of the directors?
No, see, say if a company, if I understood your question correctly, what you mean to say that if a company has not filed annual return or balance sheet for 3 years, directors of those companies have been disqualified, right?
Yes.
Now what happens to those disqualified directors? So that those disqualified directors will remain disqualified for a period of 5 years. That disqualification is not removed in any way by this fresh start scheme. But what this scheme says that in case there is a 2 directors and both the directors of that company are disqualified, so the company is not able to file any form. What it can do, it can go request the registrar by making application to induct a director from the back end. And once a director is inducted in the back end, company can do the DIA3 KYC form active A, 22A, and thereafter it can proceed with filing all the forms. There is no immunity for all disqualified directors. That position remains.
Okay. So do you think that there would be some UC way out for already directors which has been disqualified in the past, since a fresh start has been given to the companies for UC making default even prior to this COVID?
Yeah. I got it. This was a question also raised to MCA. We discussed with MCA that since you are giving a fresh start, so what they said, look, we are only giving you a fresh start in the sense it is not what called a COVID-19 measure. One thing should be clear. This is not a COVID-19 situation. What we are telling you that you have failed to file forms, and there are a number of companies we have failed to file forms. Government is government came out with a direct tax dispute resolution, that is a Vivad Se Vishwas scheme for direct tax, or another was for indirect tax. So we want that there should be a fresh start. Every company, whatever it has been done in the past, we do not want litigation. We do not want to levy penalty. We do not want to prosecute you for these technical offenses. Over the last 2 years, we have reduced what you call provisions from which required levying of fine to penalty. We have also made number of offences which were not compoundable to compoundable. So number of things has been done, and therefore again, as a continuity measure, what we say that whatever forms you have not filed, we are giving you another option to file the forms. We are not charging any additional fees from you also. We are not levying any penalty, any prosecution. But as far as those directors are concerned, they have defaulted. So whosoever has not complied with the law, and this immunity is only relating to filing of the forms. If we have not complied the provision of a law, say as I told you earlier, if we have failed to hold the annual general meeting within 30th September, if we have without seeking approval from ROC for extension of time, if we have utilized the money by private placement without filing the past 3, then again there is a violation of law. If we have accepted deposits in contravention of law, so those all violations will stand, and for that action, necessary action as per law will be taken.
Yeah, no, thank you. Manoj Kumar Modi ji, you are unmuted. Please ask the question.
मोहित जी, आपने जो नेफ्रा 2 के बारे में बताया, लॉकडाउन के पहले ही उसको एक्सटेंड किया गया था, तो 9 मई तक का उसका एक्सटेंशन था,
राइट?
तो उसके फर्दर एक्सटेंशन की कोई अभी तक कोई खबर है क्या?
अभी उसका फर्दर एक्सटेंशन नहीं है, ये क्योंकि ये नफरा देगा, फॉर्म नफरा 2 नफरा का है, तो
पर है तो सर आरओसी के अंडर में ही, मतलब आई मीन कंपनीज एक्ट 2013 के अंडर में ही
ये फॉर्म नफरा प्रिस्क्राइब करता है।
अच्छा, इसमें एक इशू और है सर, सुप्रीम
नफरा
कोर्ट
में
ने
सर बहुत इशू है। वी हैड, मैंने आई टेल यू, इवन वंस दिस नफरा फॉर्म्स filing resumes, there are large number of issues in relating to filing NAFRA 2. We had, I personally had given a mail to the corporate law committee of ICICI to resolve a number of issues. So there are a number of issues which remain unanswered till today as to how we will proceed with filing NAFRA 2.
सर मैं नेफ्रा के इशू की बात नहीं कर रहा हूं, मैं इशू कर रहा हूं एक्सटेंशन की। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने 23 मार्च को, जहां तक मेरे को याद है, एक ऑर्डर पास किया सुओ मोटो कि ऑल द फॉर्म्स, ऑल द ऑर्डर्स, ऑल द पिटीशंस व्हिच एवर वर पेंडिंग फॉर फाइलिंग, वो फर्दर ऑर्डर तक वो एक्सटेंडेड रहेंगे। यदि मेरे को सही याद है 23 मार्च की डेट में, 24 मार्च से फिर लॉकडाउन चालू हो गया, तो उस सुप्रीम कोर्ट के ऑर्डर का क्या इम्पैक्ट होगा?
सर गवर्नमेंट को I have not read that order. I cannot recollect the order. But गवर्नमेंट ने आपको तो एक्सटेंशन सब चीज के लिए ऑलरेडी 30 जून तक दे ही दिया है।
पर नेफ्रा के लिए तो स्पेसिफिकली भी नहीं है ना सर, वही बात है।
नफरा के लिए अभी भी टाइम है ना, वो टाइम एक्सपायर नहीं हुआ। मे बी बिफोर, वो आपने क्या कहा, 3rd में है ना शायद लास्ट डे? 9th में, तो अभी तो 9th में देरी है ना। हाँ, तो मे बी बिफोर 9th में दे में अगेन एक्सटेंड।
राइट, ओके, ठीक है मोहित जी, थैंक यू।
कुमकुम जी, कुमकुम, you can ask your question. You are unmuted.
Yeah. मोहित सर, मेरा क्वेश्चन है, सुजलॉन एनर्जी ने ये जो नया सर्कुलर आया है, इसके लिए इसको यूज करते हुए EGM रखा था 16th of April को, but due to some technical glitches they couldn't hold it because I kept logging in. मैं लॉग इन करके बैठी थी, परंतु वो बार बार जो बोलता है ना कि host is preparing for the meeting, वही हो रहा था। So ये जो नया मॉडिफिकेशन सर्कुलेशन व्हाटएवर हैज कम एज अ रेस्क्यू फॉर द कंपनी, बट इसमें कोई पेनल प्रोविजन या कोई पेनल्टी नहीं है। सो आई हैव अ क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम बोथ द साइड। बीइंग अ स्टेक होल्डर, आई कुडंट अटेंड द मीटिंग, जूम पे थी जो, तो मैं अटेंड नहीं कर सकी, कंपनी कुडंट मेक द प्रॉपर अरेंजमेंट्स, सो आई मिस द चांस। सो डू आई हैव एनी रिकॉर्स ऑफ एक्शन अगेंस्ट द कंपनी? एंड सेकंड क्वेश्चन इज फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ कंपनी, कि कंपनी ने कोशिश करी थी, परंतु मे बी नई चीजें हैं, सारे सिस्टम्स नए हैं, और उन लोगों को अहमदाबाद से उन लोगों ने फिर किया था, नॉट फ्रॉम देयर रजिस्टर्ड ऑफिस, तो मे बी टेक्निकल इश्यूज रही होंगी उनके संग, फॉर व्हिच सम जेन्युइन रीजन दे कुडंट होल्ड द मीटिंग जूम वाली। वहां पे तो वेन्यू हुई ही
होल्ड द मीटिंग, और दे हेल्ड द मीटिंग बट यू कुड नॉट अटेंड।
No sir, I couldn't log in the way like I am logged in with you. अभी हम मीटिंग कर रहे हैं, तो लेकिन उस समय जब वहां पे Zoom का ही लिंक दिया था हमें, तो Zoom में the message kept showing till 1.5 hour, 1 घंटा 30 मिनट तक दिखाते रहा कि host is preparing for the meeting. That means certainly there were certain technical issues कि host couldn't prepare the meeting, Zoom पे नहीं मीटिंग कर पाया था वो।
करेक्ट, तो दिस मींस वो मीटिंग हुआ ही नहीं।
वेन्यू पे हुआ था उस दिन, वेन्यू पे था, प्लस हम लोग शेयर होल्डर्स, आउटसाइड शेयर होल्डर्स को अपॉर्चुनिटी दी गई थी थ्रू जूम का एक आईडी क्रिएट करके।
करेक्ट। अब रहा कि तो you mean they took the benefit of circular 17 and 14 issued by MCA relating to this.
यस
अब
राइट।
उसमें पूरा procedural requirement है, right? अब if you recollect law earlier also, like if an annual general meeting is required to be called, shareholders are required to be given notice. The accidental omission to issue a notice to a shareholder does not result in the acts or the decisions taken at the annual general meeting invalidated unless what you call some malified intention is shown on the part of the company. So agar I think if it is only a technical it is a technical breach, there was no malified intention on the part of the company. So I don't think at this stage there should any be cause of action.
बट एक ये भी लग रहा है कि इट्स नॉट नेसेसरी दैट आई कुडंट जॉइन द मीटिंग, मे बी जूम पे इटसेल्फ जब मीटिंग नहीं हो पाई है तो सीम्स मेरे जैसे बहुत सारे शेयर होल्डर्स रहे होंगे who couldn't join the meeting.
Definitely. Again, मैंने कहा ना वो इंटेंट देखा जाएगा. That he tried. Maybe मैं एग्जांपल बोल रहा हूँ. चलिए ऐसा सोचते हैं कि 1000 शेयर होल्डर ने कनेक्ट करने को चेष्टा किया, बट ओनली 100 आदमी कनेक्ट कर पाया, सब्सटेंशियली नहीं कनेक्ट कर पाया. Therefore, the circular is not complied with. Therefore, there is a very strong possibility that decisions taken at the meeting will be invalidated if one goes to court.
Yeah. We have question from Madhav Sureka ji. Madhav, yeah.
हाँ मोहित जी नमस्कार.
हाँ नमस्ते माधव जी.
तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट वाला आपके बिहाफ में मैं उत्तर दे दूं. जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट वाला डेट एक्सटेंशन का जो जजमेंट था, that was related to court proceedings. All dates were extended as far as Supreme Courts are concerned, where the court proceedings, petition and all those things are statutorily required to be filed.
Okay.
मेरा क्वेश्चन जो है वो डिस्क्वालिफिकेशन ऑफ डायरेक्टर्स के ऊपर में है. और नॉन फाइलिंग, आई गॉट द कम्युनिकेशन फ्रॉम आरडी दैट द डायरेक्टर्स हैव बीन डिस्क्वालिफाइड. Later on, but disqualified, but the gazetting was not done. In between, the company filed their documents and the director's disqualification was removed. That is what the RD argued. How far it is valid?
नहीं, I could not get your question. एक बार वापस बोलिए.
I had a litigation pending before the RD. RD given me in writing those non-filing of the documents, the directors have been disqualified. On the next hearing after 15 days, directors filed their documents. When I objected to it, that the directors disqualified, the meetings are not valid, I was told by RD that they were disqualified, but the gazetting was not done.
But the meeting was?
Gazette, their nomination, their disqualification has to be gazetted in the document. So that gazetting was not done, and in the transitional period, the company could file the documents with the signature of all such disqualified directors.
Okay.
And then he argued that the directors are not disqualified.
Therefore, if I understood correctly, कि 3 साल का period over हो गया, वो period over होने के बाद भी disqualified directors proceeded with filing of the forms on the pretext that they were not gazetted.
Right, sir.
Right. Now, it is a very legal question, but you see, law में ऐसा कोई provision नहीं है. Law सीधा बोलता है, one who has failed to file annual return or balance sheet for a period of 3 years, he becomes disqualified. Now, say, suppose कीजिए ऐसा situation लेते हैं कि this gentleman is disqualified, and this disqualification happens, say, on 30th of November 2019. Now, अब वो जो balance sheet का हम and till 31st March 2020, there is no gazetting done also. Now 31st March 2020 को company को उसे disclosure लेना पड़ता है whether you are disqualified or not. So he will say I am not disqualified. I am disqualified to act as a director. Therefore, once he is disqualified to act as a director, it has to intimate the company, and the company will take necessary steps. So it is more of a legal issue. Law में कहीं ऐसा नहीं है कि there should be a gazette. क्योंकि पहले भी जब हुआ था कि one came out with a list, जब first time government ने आया था तो government ने list पूरा host कर दिया था website पे कि these are the directors disqualified. Many people went to the court, and then they showed that कि हमको notice तो कुछ मिला ही नहीं था. So some court said that yes, before you are disqualified, there should be a show cause issue to you. Some said that no, disqualification is automatic by virtue of law. There is no need for you to get any what you call show cause or even gadget requirements. I have heard first time. There is no need for. So I think law में ऐसा कोई provision नहीं.
Now, I have the documents. I was pleading a case myself.
Hmm.
When I have the order from the RD which says that the directors are disqualified because of non-filing of the records for more than 3 years.
Yes.
Later on, they held their meeting, they filed their documents, and they represented that the disqualification, the grounds for the disqualification was non-filing of the documents which they have regularized, so they are no more disqualified.
I will not agree with this view, because in my view the disqualification is automatic by operation of law.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Friends, do you have any further questions? Yes, you may raise your hand or write in the chat box. Okay, fine. I think we come to end of this session. Vivek, can you please offer a formal vote of thanks?
Sure. Thank you, President, for giving me this opportunity to give the formal vote of thanks. Mohit ji is the one man we always move forward whenever it's a corporate law or NBFC or SEBI, which we get entangled to. And he took a very good deliberation today for last 1 hour. And most of them had their questions clarified. So we are really thankful to Mohit ji for taking this session today on Zoom at AC 11.
Thank you.
And we look forward for more such session for Mohit ji. Will not leave him. And thank you everyone else for joining the session. And stay tuned today at 6 o'clock so that we can learn how to use smartphones more smartly. And we'll be back every day at AC 11. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.